Okay, after that was interesting. But I hope you're all full, or at least somewhat satisfied. But yeah, good evening. I hope everyone in the back row at that altitude can hear me. I'm here for two reasons. One, your lovely organizers have set up this event and have invited me up here. I'm originally down in Sydney, and I'm one of the organizers there too. So I know how much effort goes into actually organizing an event like this. So up to those. You don't have to, oh yeah, but we can actually clap it up. Yeah. And did I even say my name? The other reason is something happened on a project to me a few years ago that kind of just changed how I think about building apps. Now I have a stroke, right? So it happened again to me last year too. So it's kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight. Yes, very mysterious. But it happened because something broke. And we were 6 months into a project, 5-star reviews, et cetera, the client's happy, shipping weekly. There's no crashes, no exception. There's actually something way worse than that. User sent a screenshot to our support team, whatever. And what they saw on the screen wasn't happening to us, or at least we couldn't reproduce it. So that was a few years ago, and I've kind of moved on from that. But last year, 3 independent founders came to me with their apps still in cursor, crawl, couple, the standard AI slot, and I saw the exact same bug. So, and I thought, okay, we kind of need to take a step back and talk about this a little bit because, we don't really want to be retrofitting a bunch of bugs, right? So we checked everything. The logs were clean, backend was verified, and what have you, and the tests were green. Nothing failed. But the data on the screen just wasn't true, at least not always or for long. But it was just long enough for the user to take a screenshot and kind of like lose trust in the application, right? And that's the worst kind of bug, the one that kind of just slowly erodes confidence in your users, and eventually they'll stop coming back until you look at your user count and it's like 0, right? So quick show of hands, so we can do it properly. I've tested this so many times, so it doesn't work. I'll be really upset. I'll allow you on your phones just this once, but there's a QR code down there. In hindsight, should have been a bit bigger, but maybe you could zoom in or just go to the link. But first poll, right? Quite squished up there. Have you ever shipped an app where the UI showed the wrong thing, but it didn't crash, it just showed the wrong thing? So yes, and it wants me. Yes, but we fixed it quickly, or not yet that I know of. Oh, everyone's seeing a lot of blues. All right, so I'll give you guys 20 seconds. I expect this to be at least 10 before I click next. I'm seeing people try to zoom in, so I know I made this QR code too small. I'm really sorry. Yeah, my fault. The link is wait, there's this magical thing I can do. Hold on. Oh, nope, that just didn't zoom at all. Okay, we will skip that. Well, 3 people got it, so I know it's not the QR code. 5, 6, okay. Maybe people just don't want to participate. Okay, I see way more than 6 people up here, but it's okay. 7, I'll just give it 10 more seconds for people to join. And once you're on, by the way, you can just keep that browser because there is another poll, but just keep the browser open. All right, okay. Is everyone good? Do I need to wait for anyone, or we can just continue? All right. Okay, so yeah, yes, it haunts me. I'm not surprised. Not yet that I know of. For the 4 people that said that, give it a try. Coming. But B, 1 person fixed it quickly. Did you fix it or did you fix a symptom? That's the question. So let me show you how this starts, right? It always starts like this. Start of a project, it's day 1, it's beautiful. The client talks to API. The API talks to state variable UI. Now this is the simplest diagram I could show. And it's great, right? You have 1 source, 1 truth, 1 timeline, test pass, users are happy, and we can ship, right? And for months, this is usually pretty great, and it was great. But here's the thing about the early architecture. It works until it doesn't, and the transition between those 2 things are pretty invisible. It's very, it's blurred, if not just invisible, right? So here's how our app grew. Feature by feature, each one was justified. So month one, oh, it could be day one, day two, it doesn't matter. Month one, REST API is pretty simple. You integrate that, right? The client goes, actually, we want things to be a bit quicker, or we need a WebSocket for instant delivery, or near instant delivery. Sure. So now we have two things talking to the UI. Let's push notifications, or even just silent push stuff. So in the background, while your phone's in your pocket, app's dead, we can send a small little payload that will just be consumed while your app is killed. Sure. Again, justified. And then the client goes, actually, we kind of want to show the action before the server confirms it. So we kind of want it to be a bit quicker. It's kind of slow right now. There is one more coming. Does anyone want to have a guess of what that is? One more data source that it could be? No idea? Okay, that's fine. AI? Okay, get them out. A cache. So let's just, when you're offline, show the data, and we'll sync it when you're back, right? This is a bit crazy, but they're all justified in their own right. So each addition made perfect sense in isolation, and no one was lazy, no one really cut corners. The code was great. We just have now 5 green flags, all pointing in different directions towards the UI, really. So then the scary ticket, sort of appeared. Bug 4291, the delivery status briefly showed en route after it was already confirmed to be delivered. Scary. And the priority is usually low. Can't really reproduce it. It's intermittent, so it's usually assigned and shoved off to a junior developer, which I feel sorry for, because how are they going to fix this? And then the PM goes, hey, look, this is low priority. Let's just ship it out anyway. But what we didn't know, what bug 4291 was actually telling us. It was telling us that there's no crashes, no exceptions, no error logs, the test passed, we had coverage, the UI renders fine, but the user sees the wrong data, 400 milliseconds. Doesn't sound like a lot. If you blink, or maybe have a long blink, maybe, you'll miss it, but your user probably didn't miss it, right? They just couldn't sort of explain what happened. They just kind of feel like the app was off, right? So the system was working perfectly, it just wasn't telling the truth. And before I tell you what, retried, turn to the person next to you, or if you don't like the person next to you or don't want to talk to them, talk to yourself. In your current app, what would you try if this happened to you, right? 400 milliseconds, something flashed. What would your approach be to this? Well, already down to 13 seconds, let's go. Oh, you can talk to me. I mean, there's something like that. That's okay. No, it's okay. I imagine a lot of you just brainstormed in your head and you don't like each other. That's okay. So everything you pretty much just brainstormed, I said, my name's John, we didn't think of that, but here's what happened, right? Just the way that the junior developer just goes, I'm just going to await this. Sure, you can await a REST call, but you can't await a WebSocket. So good learning. Then you can't actually await WebSockets. But that just silently broke other things, and that just didn't work entirely. A more senior person on the team comes and says, I'm just going to rebuild the state layer. We need more ceremony, we need more events to handlers and what have you. So sure, that's nice, good code, whatever, but still the same underlying issue. We just pushed everything we got, which is incorrect. He even added a bouncer, and the flicker moved, and we added the loading state, and guess what flickered? The loading state flickered, so that didn't really work. This one was an interesting one. Why don't we just react up timestamps? If it arrived later, surely it must be newer, right? Well, not necessarily. Arrival time is not necessarily data freshness. You probably all know this. But yeah, that didn't work either. So await, rebuild, timestamps, everything moved the problem. And we kept rebuilding the plumbing, but we never really asked, who owns this water, right? Probably the council, but in this scenario, anyone can. So we blamed ourselves for months. It still wasn't our problem, but Flutter also shipped on purpose with some of these bugs baked into them too. So if anyone who's used Firestore before, I imagine if you're a Flutter developer, you've probably toyed with Firestore maybe. No hands went up, so up besides one. So what would happen is a user would delete a document or And the server will confirm and say, yes, we have 100% deleted this document, but your Firestore local cache says, I'm not deleted, so then it actually went back in. You kind of had no decision over that. That was Firestore. And you are online at this time too. You're not offline. So the server did actually confirm the deletion. It's just our local cache didn't get the memo. So with this, we had 0 crashes, 0 error messages, and the app was confident, but it was wrong. Shared preferences. Surely, if you're a Flutter developer, you do shared preferences. Wow, the lack of hands is quite sad. Because I picked these thinking they were going to be. Oh, the mic's gone. Hello. It is. Oh, it's flashing. It's flashing battery, so I think it's about to go. If so, I'll just project. What they had is a background handler would write a token in a different isolate, what have you, and the foreground app would read it. And it's not. Yeah. Okay. I can probably just project, even though it's a lot less. It's pretty weird. No, that's okay. No, it's fine. So the foreground app would read it, and it's not there. GetString actually reads from memory, and the disk was updated by that background isolate. So the memory wasn't updated, so then we had 2 processes, 1 file, and no sort of agreement on who goes first. Again, there was no crash. There was no exception. It was just silently wrong. Or maybe you had a null reference error or whatever because it gave you null, but so both bugs share DNA. They had 2 writers, no policy for who wins, right? So even with a different framework, different API, different team, the same missing decision. Where is my, oh, it's up there. Okay. If this were a Flutter problem, we could blame the framework, right? But we're not alone. This has happened in many, many platforms, and I promise we'll get to code soon. GitHub, if anyone remembers this, in 2021, they had a background thread that shared state with the main thread, and I have a microphone. There was no lock on the session environment, so users ended up getting authenticated as the wrong person. So then they had to do a full force logout on the whole platform. So that was interesting. Twitter, or X now, it's been X for a while, but this was in 2019, but they had a optimistic like count. So the like count on the front end would say, yep, I've liked it, and the server count would return, but there's no reconciliation policy there. So you tap like, the client would increment, the server would return a different number, and there's no sort of coincidence scenario. So with the whole platform, the like count was just completely wrong. And React, I'm kind of scared to talk about this because no, I feel like we might have some React people in the crowd, but it wouldn't be a Flutter talk if we didn't talk about React a little bit. So they had a external store that mutated mid-render, and then they had 2 components that read the same store, and they got 2 different values. And the React team called this tearing, and then they built a solution to it. You get my point, right? 3 platforms, 3 ecosystems, same class of bug, and every time the app was confident that it was showing the right data, but it was wrong. So enough about everyone else's bugs, right? Everyone, let me show you ours. So it's nothing exotic, but for these scenarios, I should say our scenario. Anyway, this will probably be me later because I'm very hungry. But a user places a food delivery order, and they open the app, it says preparing, great. They put down their phone or kill the app, what have you. And while they're waiting, the driver picks up the order, they deliver it, and the server has confirmed that it's been delivered. A silent push may come into your phone. User picks up the phone, the cache loads, the last known state, the REST polls for a fresh response, and the WebSocket reconnects and could replay the buffered events. So 7 steps, all pretty reasonable. And if you have a look, I'll show you exactly what happens here. So we have 5 sources. There's 1 UI. If we just watch what happens, could have made this faster, but it's okay. So the UI just changed 4 times from delivered to preparing to en route back to delivered again. It did end up in the right state, but if it happens again, same events, but this time different order, again, you don't control the ordering here. One phone said delivered and another one said en route with the exact same data and the exact same events, just different timings. So same events, same data, and one user thinks their food's arrived, and the other still just waiting on the couch or wherever they may be, thinking their food has not been delivered. So your user may have got one of these, right? But you just don't know which one, and your tests also don't know which one. So which one does the UI believe, right? What is the correct order here? Suspense. There isn't a correct order, and I should put an asterisk there in theory. So which one do you think the UI should believe? And I expect more votes this time. If you're in the same browser, it'll just connect you straight away to this current poll, so you don't have to scan the QR code again. But I hope this one is going to be interesting. Okay, the reconnect did work. See, WebSockets are cool. Give you maybe 15 more seconds. There was 11 people last time. All right, well, I think I'm happy with 11 maybe. If anyone else is, I'm seeing if anyone else is scrambling on their phone. No one. I clicked next. Okay. Oh, geez. All right. So a lot of people said REST response. Few people said whichever run less. WebSockets output. I know some of you are thinking there's an option that I wanted to pick, but it's not there. Tough luck. So if we have a look at this, we can't even agree. So every single one of these answers you could technically defend, right? You can defend any of these answers. But we just kind of demonstrated here why distributed systems need explicit conflict resolution policies, right? No algorithm can just pick the right answer if there's no definition of right. And do not think or say AI, because I don't use it. So this disagreement we just had is the bug, right? And if a room full of engineers, can't agree, how would your code agree? And your code faces this decision every single render cycle, but they don't really have the benefit of a discussion, right? They don't have to hear me talk all the time. So how do you decide which update wins? If you're a backend engineer or you're a database engineer, they've answered this question for decades, probably like the 19, yeah, I can't remember, but I'm not going to try to confidently assume. Postgres just rejects stale rows. You've got your Firestore, which versions your documents, and you've got your DynamoDB that has conditional puts, right? So your server already decides. We just got to, make our client decide. Seems simple. So every time you add a source, there's sort of two questions you want to ask. If it's cache, WebSocket, push, whatever, who owns the state? For delivery, probably the server. For a chat presence, maybe the local device, maybe, not sure. But for a collaboration document, maybe it's the last writer. And then you got to ask, how does the client know? Is it a version stamp? Is it a server acknowledgement of this action? Is it a message ID? Whatever proof your domain gives you, that's what you should use. But this is it, just two questions. And if you can answer this, you're ahead of those code bases I talked about before. And honestly, most code bases. So give your architecture an opinion. And once you've answered those two questions, 4 states emerge. And I know some of you are thinking, what? Not loading and loaded? Are you serious? So you've got authoritative, stale, pending, and failed. The missing one that I see in 95% of applications, and that's true, is stale. And that's actually where the honesty kind of lives. So you don't hide it, you don't show a shimmer, you show what you have. Sure, you can show a shimmer, loading, or whatever. And then you resolve. And an if statement is an architecture, obviously. The compiler, you should make your compiler enforce this. So if you had a sealed class in Dart, you're exhaustive matching and you're enforcing that you handle these 4 states. There's no silent fall through. We're finally at code. Look at that. Crazy. I thought I just heard someone clap. Sorry. So what does this look like in code? You'll have a sealed class, authoritative state. It's a generic class over T because this can't go to anything or any data. You can call it whatever you want, etc. So sealed class gives us that proper data types, and the compiler can exhaustive match these states even, or data types. And if I'll quickly just go through each one. So authoritative, this one's pretty simple. The owner has confirmed that this is the truth, right? You store the value, timestamp, whatever the owner's given you, you'll say, okay, this is 100% the truth because my domain, whatever you've switched on, is correct. And this is the only time where you're confident to the user Stale, I have data, but I don't trust it. Maybe it came from cache. Maybe it came from a non-owner of the screen or the data source, right? You just show a shimmer. You don't guess. You don't hide it. You show what you have honestly. Pending, I mean, we all know this is a user's optimistic guess, awaiting the truth, awaiting some confirmation. Maybe they just tapped confirm order or they sent a message. So show a loading state / maybe an opaque version of the message or something, so the user knows they're waiting for something, and everyone has failed. Something went wrong. Here's what we last knew plus the error. Because I see so many error screens that are just something went wrong and that's it. And like, okay, could we get a target model or a snack bar? That would be cool. But what they usually miss is showing the last state plus the error and action to continue from that. So that's what that's what this is supposed to be. So 4 states, not 2. And be honest, if I asked who had loading and loaded as their 2 states, how many hands? Anyone? This doesn't seem true. Because show me your code bases afterwards, and I promise I'll find a loading and loaded. But the missing states are usually stale and fail. Maybe you have failed. And that's where every Flutter bug actually occurs. So you don't need this on every screen. I know you're probably thinking, no, 4 more states to maintain on all my screens. Your settings screen is safe, don't worry. But for the domains where sources are going to compete with each other, the delivery tracker, the chat room, 5 things that are trying to update, you should probably have these 4 states, right? So here's some pseudocode. It's very dumbed down, but just imagine there's services and what have you. There's proper types, proper names, handles. It handles all 3 data, right? And this is what was running when we had that bug 4291. So what would happen is the cache would load, and we would just instantly disagree and say, yep, cool, let's just show it to the user. It obviously seems obvious now what we need to do, but let's just see what was happening. REST snapshot, sure, we're delivered, cool. Again, the handler just accepts it. And then the WebSocket reconnects and it says, oh, en route. So the handler accepts it and goes backwards from delivered to en route. And the version was right there. The version timestamped it the whole time, or mutated it every time. So what would you change? I kind of already said the answer, but we would add some versioning check or some sort of mutation with the version, right? So checking the version of this scenario is checking the owner. We've made that decision that checking the version is checking the owner in this case. So it's pretty much just 1 line. It seems very simple, and it is. So if the version is stale, we're going to reject it. Not a debounce, not a timer, it's just a policy. So if this runs again, sure, the cache loads as it is, same data, but this time stale. We're saying, hey, look, we have something, but it's not the truth. Here's what we had last time, and a shimmer. Then the rest responds, and we know that this is the owner. So authoritative, the server has confirmed this as being the latest state. The shimmer has resolved solid, and if that WebSocket comes through again, it's not getting past that owner check or version check in this case. So it's fairly simple. Same data, different policy, the owner versions win, right? How does the UI consume this? Again, very pseudocoding type vibe on the left, but it demonstrates the point that you switch on all of these states. Authoritative, the server has confirmed that you can show with 100% confidence a delivered tick. Stale, I have something, but I'm not sure. So, a shimmering, pending, or whatever. A lot of people just show what they have, and then once the API has confirmed or the owner's confirmed, they'll just switch and they'll just flicker. The user's just like, oh, something refreshed or something changed. They don't really have some indication that we're waiting. We're just being honest with what we're showing here. And the other ones are fairly straightforward, right? So the guard that you switch upon is yours, right? It's your domain. It's your version, server acknowledgement, message ID, whatever proof your domain has. That's what you use. And for this one, delivery tracking with 1 owner, it's the server. But what about a service where anyone can write to the owner? That's when it gets a little bit more complicated. Let's say you were building a sprint board. We've all seen sprint board before. Sorry, breath. It's good. So if you notice the shimmer, say we open this board, it's the same pattern, it's stale. We're waiting for a combination from the owner. But when we built this board, we said, hey, look, the owner of this board is the server. The server is going to make that decision of who wins. For your app, it could be the local device or the last rider, etc. It doesn't really, the pattern doesn't care. It just says that you decided that the owner. So the API has said, yep, we're good, authoritative, the board is live, and there's our pesky bug, 4291, Flickr status, you've worked on it all week, It's time to actually move it to done. So there's our block again, very pseudocodey, but you get the vibe. You get the idea. 3 handlers. We got drag acknowledgement. We've got drag. We've got server acknowledgement, and we've got a WebSocket board update when someone else changes something. So there's bug. Let's move it over. And when we move it, oh, I thought my thing crashed. It shows pending. It's an optimistic state. We're saying, I think it's done, but the server hasn't confirmed it yet. And that correlation ID or CID is just something we can attach to this drag, so we can match it with the server's response, and we can tag that action, right? So let's say it's 3. The server response said, the correlation ID was 3, it's authoritative, the card's done, it's matched. But the server didn't just reply to me, of course, it broadcast this change to anyone who's looking at the board, including yourself, because you could be on it on another device, etc. So when that happens, the WebSocket's going to come through, but we've already rejected it, right? We already have our version check down here, very simple. Correlation ID already matches my pending drag, so we just skip it, right? And without this check, the card will animate twice, because it'll go back to in progress and then back to done. Because that flicker you've seen on sprint boards, because I know we've all seen it, I've seen it many times, so no one agrees, I swear. And that's this, right? That flicker is this bug right here. So another one, Sarah decides to move that to 201, same exact WebSocket handler, but its correlation ID is not mine. So we pass it, the version is higher than my version, so we let it through. And obviously 6 lines of code, and it just goes whoop. It rejected my echo, and it accepted their move. Same guard, same state, the writer moved, right? So we proved this twice. Twice. Delivery tracker, sprint board, different domain, same kind of guard, right? Let's just click it. This happens, you can do this in any, this is not something Dart's invented. This has been around for decades, but the annotations never move no matter what platform or framework you're building with. So the syntax changes, but the principle doesn't, sure. And I don't know if people are coming here to wanting to learn a Flutter trick, but maybe you didn't learn anything, maybe you already knew this, but I just wanted to bring it back because I've seen so many code bases have this exact issue. Actually, I say this later, but so trade-offs, because nothing's free, right? You do have to talk to someone, which is a developer's worst nightmare. And if you're a solo dev, you can talk to the rubber ducky, that's fine, or whatever your sort of soundboard is. I use a rubber duck when I'm got nowhere. That's pretty lonely. But don't talk to AI, please, or at least not about this, right? You can talk to it about anything, what shoes anything, just not about your architectural decisions. You should actually kind of be driving that, because if you ask AI, it's just going to give you whatever it thinks, and it will be very, very confident about what it thinks. Because one of the founders was like, I have a flicker on this page, please fix it. Not as detailed as that. It would search a code base and be super, super confident, said, yeah, we just need to add a delay. So now it's just delayed, and it broke everything, right? They just constantly give us the wrong answer no matter what. It treats the symptom, but it doesn't treat the disease, and now the disease is time dependent too. So cool. So what does this cost? Just 5 minutes in a sprint planning, really. Or you can do 3 weeks of debugging a flicker that 6 people saw differently. That's fine too. But yeah, have the conversation when you add the feature, not when the ticket comes in, right? And those vibe-coded projects I mentioned at the start, this is what I keep finding. 30 screens, there's not really an ownership model, and now someone's paying me to untangle this mess. And honestly, it's no fun for me either. So you're not fixing a bug at that point. You're kind of retrofitting a decision that just never got made. So thanks, AI, I guess. It's probably listening to me in the future, and it's gonna, but if you remember one thing from tonight, it's just that bug 4291 wasn't a bug. It depends what you loosely define as a bug, but it was just a missing policy, a missing no, actually that's it, just a missing policy. And while I was building this talk, I was a lot more open to seeing these bugs in the wild, like Expedia, because obviously I had to book a flight to get here. When I wanted to see my flight information, it would just show me loading state, even though I obviously didn't have internet. But I didn't even get to see my flight information that I know I've clearly loaded before, but it was just loading. So they have a loading and loaded state. So the fact that no one put their hand up means I know someone's lying. So Expedia, what else? LinkedIn, one of the organizers, I don't know if she's here, but I saw a post saying, oh, look, announcing Luke Moody as a speaker. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I closed the app, I fully killed it, I opened it up again, and then I saw it again 16 minutes ago. And I was like, I swear I saw this hours ago. But it confidently told me 60, I have a video of it too. Don't think I'm lying. It said 60 minutes ago. I was like, I swear I saw it earlier. Did she repost it? Anyway, let me click on it, and then it said 6 hours ago. So I was like, okay, I've just been confidently told the wrong thing. And I have another example from WhatsApp, but I won't make fun of that. So they're not really bugs, they're architecture refusing to have an opinion, so you should probably just give it one, right? So all I really want you to think about when you add a new thing or feature, who owns this? What happens if it arrives late? What does my UI show while I'm uncertain? You probably, senior developers, etc. You probably already know this. It's more for the vibe coders out there, because I know you're out there. I just don't know who it is. And if you can answer this, all these 3 questions, you're ahead of most code bases I've seen. So have the conversation early. It's cheap now rather than retrofitting later. So that's pretty much the talk. Sorry, there's no demo or anything, but I'd love to hear about your architecture war stories or anything like that. And if you want to continue the conversation, you can grab me later or email. Email, I guess. But has anyone got any questions or